Right now, I'm going to share a brain-based method that helped me going from being completely paralyzed by simple tasks to someone who can actually get things done. This isn't just motivational fluff. I'm talking about the brain-based system that will eliminate your task initiation paralysis, erase that brutal avoidance shame guilt cycle, break free from chronic procrastination, and finally give you the ability to start tasks without dread, all without having to rely purely on medication, willpower, discipline, or traditional productivity hacks. People who've used this method describe it as the first thing that actually worked for their ADHD brain. In the next minutes, I'm pulling back the curtain on my own decade-long battle with overwhelming task paralysis, chronic underachievement, and that suffocating feeling of always being behind life. But more importantly, I will show you the system I built after years of research, trial and error, and hundreds of hours studying ADHD neuroscience, a system that finally works for our brain instead of against it. We're not talking about another planner or productivity app. This is about understanding why traditional methods fail ADHD brains and what actually works instead. This system comes from my lived experience and research, drawing on experts who've actually understood executive dysfunction, not generic productivity advice designed for people whose brains work completely differently. And it doesn't stop there. Stick with me to the end of this video and I will give you the access to the 7 bonus guides, 100% free, that solve specific micro problems like email paralysis and appointment booking anxiety. So strap in as I explain why this method works for ADHD brains, how it works independently of willpower or discipline, and the truth about why conventional productivity tools just don't cut it for people like us. Before I dive into the how, I need to share my journey with you. The journey to this discovery is crucial as the method itself. If you don't know the backstory, you won't grasp how all of this works together. So let's just get started. First of all, my name is Edward. I've spent over a decade researching ADHD neuroscience, testing strategies on myself, and building systems that actually work for ADHD brains. I'm an engineer who's worked at some of the world's top tech companies, but that success came at a brutal cost. I will have to explain that in a minute. Life nowadays looks fairly balanced for myself. I wake up, I know what I need to do, and then I can actually make myself start. I get my work done without the crushing anxiety. I respond to emails without 3 weeks of avoidance. I go to bed without that pile of unfinished tasks haunting me. But it wasn't always like that. Let me take you back to where this all started, Romania. When I was a kid who couldn't sit still in the class, who forgot homework constantly despite caring deeply about school, and who couldn't spend hours staring at that book without processing a single word. Everyone had an opinion about me. He was lazy, he was not trying hard enough, he's too smart to be disorganized. None of them were right, but I didn't know that yet. School was a constant battle between what I knew I was capable of and what I could actually do. I gravitated toward computer science not because it was easy, but because it was the one area where my brain actually cooperated. Logic problems, algorithms, computer systems, my brain just did them all. Reading assignments, writing essays, remembering to submit work on time, my brain would constantly shut down. I wasn't failing because I couldn't understand the material. I was failing because I couldn't make myself start the work until panic set in. Sounds that familiar to you? After my bachelor's degree, I moved to the UK to pursue a master's in software engineering. New country, new challenges, the same brain. I thought a fresh start would fix things. It didn't. Here's what my daily life looked like. I would wake up knowing exactly what I needed to do, answer those emails, book those appointments, do the dishes, do some coding, basic stuff. But somehow by 4 p.m. I would do none. Instead, I would watch those videos that I don't even care about. I'll scroll through different apps, felt progressively worse about myself with every passing hour. Convinced myself I would definitely do it after dinner. And the worst part, the task itself would take 10 minutes, but it's been 3 days, and the shame has made it completely impossible. I would tell myself, everyone else can just do things. What was wrong with me? I built a career in engineering, moving into technical leadership roles, eventually worked on engineering architecture at some point of the world's top tech companies. From the outside, it looked like success. From the inside, it was a constant adaptation and private struggle. Setting alarms for everything because my working memory couldn't hold two tasks at once. Batching all communication tasks because each of one felt like climbing a mountain. Creating elaborate systems just to do what others did automatically. Fighting the shame spiral every time a project stalled because I couldn't make my brain start. Watching deadlines approach while being physically unable to begin the work. The crushing guilt of letting people down, not because I didn't care, but because my brain wouldn't cooperate. I was successful in my field, but I was exhausted from compensating for my brain 24/7. The professional world was even less forgiving than academia. Deadlines weren't flexible. Co-workers didn't understand why I could solve complex architectural problems in my head, but I couldn't reply to simple emails for multiple weeks. I watched colleagues breeze through the tasks that felt me paralyzed. I saw people casually book appointments, respond to messages within minutes, keep their desk organized. I remember commitments without 12 reminder systems. And I thought, what was wrong with me? I couldn't hyper focus for 8 hours on something interesting, but couldn't force myself to spend 2 minutes on something that I would consider boring. This doesn't mean I didn't put effort in it. In fact, it was the exact opposite. I would try to start tasks weeks in advance. I would make plans, I would set reminders, but when task was boring or administrative, I just couldn't get my brain to cooperate, no matter how hard I tried. It felt like a train coming at me. Deadlines getting closer day by day, stress building, but I still couldn't start. It was up until the last minute. I felt like I was endlessly wasting my life away in procrastination mode. And I didn't even enjoy myself while procrastinating. I just sat there doing useless stuff, not allowing myself to relax because I was constantly telling myself I'm supposed to be productive right now. I was stuck screaming at myself, why can't I just do it? What was wrong with me? Why am I like this? So many days, weeks, months, even years of my life were wasted on constant state of stress, self-doubt, and self-hatred. It felt like putting 400% more effort than others just to get 30% of their results. And this wasn't even the worst part. People would tell me I had so much potential, but that I was just too lazy to apply for myself. That I could achieve so much if I just tried. Everyone decided I was lazy and uninterested, but no one saw that I was actually trying so hard. No one understood the internal battle I was fighting constantly. I felt like being held back by this invisible force, like pushing a stone up a hill or having the world on my back. Despite my struggles, I kept pushing forward, but the pattern continued to the point where I developed severe anxiety. It's crazy how something as simple as not being able to follow through and complete tasks can lead to that. So I decided to get help. After evaluation, I got diagnosis ADHD. Maybe this rings a bell for you. Discovering this was a revelation. First, it felt odd. Learning something significant before knowing how to process it. But after understanding what it meant, comfort washed me over. Pieces of puzzle were finally falling into place. It was a scientific reason why my mind was working like that. I wasn't weird, lazy, or uninterested. I just had ADHD. Finally, an explanation for all of my life's problems. The weight of years lifted in an instant relief liberation. Soon after my diagnosis, I explored medication options. I was so hopeful. I thought I would finally break out of this vicious cycle of procrastination and executive paralysis. I thought I would finally achieve some balance and rest in my life. And at first, my life turned around 180 degrees. I remember when medication first started working. I was working on a task I would be dreading for weeks, and all of a sudden it felt like it was the limitless pill. I picked up information hyperspeed. It felt so easy. I was like wow, this is what neurotypical people feel like all the time. It was so hard for me just to comprehend how simple tasks that were such a struggle for me were so easy for them. It was amazing. I started to constantly get things done. I made progress. Everything was going insanely well. It was almost too good to be true. And yes, it turned out that it was too good to be true. After a while, I felt less and less of the effects and had to raise my dose to get the same results. And this is where everything started to crumble. My productivity was picking up steam, but other areas of my life went on an extreme downward trajectory. Every time medication wore off, I would have terrible calm downs. I felt so insanely depressed and drawn to cheap dopamine. It was like a stranger's brain had temporarily taken over before I returned to my usual self. This messed up with me a lot, especially because I was taking medication almost daily. Not only that, but everything good that ADHD brought into my life, being spontaneous, creative, even something simple like being funny, vanished. I essentially lost what defined me. I didn't recognize myself anymore. On top of that, I couldn't sleep. I felt restless. I felt like an alien again. I felt trapped. This made my anxiety shoot up to completely unimaginable levels. I felt as tough as I exchanged a few hours of sharp focus for a whole different level of hell, transforming my life into a complete nightmare once again. I found myself trapped in a new vicious cycle from which I couldn't escape. In my efforts to fit in, to belong to the normal world, I had fallen into another dark place. I felt utterly lost, overwhelmed by questions. Why is this happening? Why me? This pain motivated me to research more, and I learned that according to studies, 48% of ADHD medication users experience significant side effects. Now, I want to highlight that there are some people whose medication works really well for them. But for almost 50%, including me, it doesn't. So under the supervision of my doctor, as everyone should do, I decided to come off medication. And just like that, I was back to square one. Imagine running a race, giving it your all, and just when you think you're about to cross the finish line, you realize you haven't even started. It felt like being pushed through a time machine that sent me back to my old self, trapped in the vicious cycle of being unable to focus, constantly procrastinating, living in a state of executive paralysis and overwhelming chaos. I was completely lost and entered a very dark time of my life. I hated it. I couldn't stand it. It felt like a curse, like I was trapped in a prison with no escape, doomed to remain there indefinitely. No matter what I tried, I always found myself facing that cold prison wall. At the darkest point, I felt numb, completely devoid of hope. But this hopelessness transformed into anger and then into pure frustration. And the anger I felt eventually transformed into an intense determination to solve this issue for myself. So I started researching techniques to deal with my ADHD. I found myself deeply stuck in the productivity rabbit hole. In other words, I tried every productivity hack I could find. Time blocking, accountability partners, you name it, I tried them all. The more things I tried, the more desperate and intense I became. Finding a solution to this problem became my whole purpose. I brought every course, planner, productivity system, app, or tool you can think of. I probably spent thousands of dollars, and no matter what I tried, the same thing happened over and over again. Every time I tried a new system, I thought I would just figure it out. All of a sudden, I could focus and I would get things done. Work was kind of fun, but shortly after, I would always stop using it and I would be right back where I started. Not being able to focus, stuck in the executive paralysis, beating myself mentally. After falling so many times, I started to wonder if I'm just a complete failure or just looking for an excuse. Because it's a fact that there are so many insanely successful people out there who also have ADHD, so there must be a way. I started learning everything I could about the ADHD brain. How is it different from neurotypical brain? How does it work? After digging through tons of articles, scientific materials, and studies, I eventually found research that gave me some answers that I needed. It explained that people with ADHD naturally have extreme low dopamine levels. This means we naturally have a low internal willpower, motivation, and ability to focus, especially when we do things we don't enjoy. Because dopamine is the neurotransmitter that controls all of this, it's a huge biological disadvantage when it comes to execution. This made me understand why every productivity system I tried failed. When it was new and exciting or something I truly loved, it provided my brain with dopamine, giving me the motivation to follow through. But as the excitement faded, so did the dopamine, and the system stopped working. So naturally, I thought if I can somehow raise my dopamine to the level of a neurotypical person, I should have consistently sufficient motivation and willpower to follow through, right? This is when I started researching natural ways to sustainably raise my dopamine levels. The first thing I found was that I should exercise and eat high protein diet. The problem, I would already been doing that for years, which meant this obviously didn't have enough impact. I stumbled upon brain supplements that promised they could raise dopamine levels. I ended up taking lots of different supplements, clinging to the hope that they could work well. Yet, I remain unsure whether their effects were truly different from not taking them at all. After trying countless supplements, I had to face the harsh reality. Some might help a bit, but they're not effective enough to raise an ADHDer's dopamine sufficient to the levels for consistent motivation, focus, and willpower. This made me realize that if there is something that works, it can't be built on dopamine levels, or better said, it couldn't rely on my internal willpower or discipline, which at the time seemed completely abstract and realistic. But then something happened. I had an important deadline I needed to hit. It was fairly a big project. I had a couple of weeks to complete it. And I started to wonder, how come I'm able to do that? Why can't I work if I don't absolutely have to? And why can I become an execution machine if I'm under severe pressure? Can I access this superpower more frequently and without the anxiety that goes with it? So I did some research and stumbled over an article explaining the difference between external and internal triggers when it comes to sticking to deadlines. It showed that internal triggers like willpower and discipline were variable. Your likelihood of sticking to deadlines, tasks, and goals that you set for yourself will 100% depend on the discipline and the willpower you have at the moment. But it also explained that external triggers like deadlines from your customer, professors, and teachers are not variable. They have a consistent impact on you and your performance, regardless of your current willpower, motivation, and discipline. This made complete sense. I thought back to all the times I had hyper focus. It was always when there was a hard deadline set by someone else I didn't want to let down. So I started experimenting. What if I could recreate that last minute deadline pressure whenever I needed to complete a task? What if I didn't have to wait until everything was on fire? I started testing different approaches, trying different structures. And this is where I need to be completely honest with you. This wasn't a quick fix. I spent years on this, late nights after work, testing strategies on myself, taking notes on what worked and what didn't. Somewhere along the way, I stopped fighting my brain and started studying it. After finally finishing work I should have started hours earlier, I would write notes. What made starting easier today? Why did I avoid that email for multiple weeks? What broke through the paralysis this time? Why can I code for 8 hours straight but I can't make myself shower? I read everything I could find about ADHD, executive function, dopamine systems, shame cycles, avoidant patterns. I looked for research that explained what I was experiencing. Not just you have ADHD, but why task initiation failed, how shame made everything worse, what was actually happening in my brain when I froze. Most strategies failed, some worked. I kept the ones that worked and refined them over years. Not because I wanted to write a guide, just because I was desperate to function. And eventually I created something that completely changed my life. A dopamine first, shame free system designed specifically for ADHD brains, not another productivity planner, not another just be disciplined program. A system built on actual neuroscience that work with my and your ADHD brain, not against it. After years of research, trial and error, and honest self-observation, I discovered something critical. The reason traditional productivity advice fails for ADHD brains isn't because we're not trying hard enough. It's because that advice assumes a neurotypical reward system we don't have. We don't lack discipline, we lack dopamine. We don't lack care, we lack initiation ability. We don't lack intelligence, we lack working memory. Once I understood this, really understood it, everything changed. I stopped trying to force myself into neurotypical productivity systems and started building systems designed for how my brain actually works. Tiny steps instead of big goals. External structure instead of internal motivation. Shame reduction instead of pushing through. Recovery protocols instead of never failing. Dopamine hacks instead of willpower. I call this the Executive Function Survival Guide. This system is built on 5 core principles that directly address the neuroscience of ADHD task paralysis. First, understanding why your brain won't just start and what actually works instead. Second, building dopamine before you need to start a task, not relying on willpower you don't have. Third, tricking your oppositional ADHD brain into cooperating with you instead of against you. Fourth, creating flexible structure that adapts with your brain instead of rigid routines that make you feel worse. And fifth, learning to recover when you fail, because you will, and that's completely okay. The guide is broken into 5 parts, over 200 pages of ADHD specific strategies. In part 1, you will understand your ADHD brain. This isn't just boring science. This is the exact neuroscience that explains why you can't just start and what actually works instead. You'll learn the dopamine deficit that causes task paralysis, the 7 types of ADHD and which one you might have, why neurotypical productivity advice makes you feel worse, how to identify your specific executive function weakness and work on that. In part 2, the task initiation toolkit, this is where the real work happens. These are the exact techniques that help you start when your brain says absolutely not, including the Just Gonna protocol, how to trick your brain into starting by breaking tasks into really small steps, the 30-second commitment, the counterintuitive reason why allowing yourself to quit makes it easier to begin, dopamine stacking, how to attach pleasurable elements to boring tasks the right way, the pre-task dopamine boost, what to do before attempting a dreaded task, reverse psychology technique, how to use your ADHD brain's oppositional nature to your advantage. Part 3. You'll escape the avoidance shame cycle because starting is only half of the battle. You also need to break free from that brutal shame spiral. You'll discover the urge surfing method, how to sit with the discomfort of a task without running away, the 3-day rule, what to do when you've avoided something so long it feels impossible. You will do email triage for ADHD brains, a system for inboxing overwhelm that actually works. The good enough done mindset, how to defeat perfectionism. Shame resilience scripts, exactly what to tell yourself when the guilt spiral starts. Building sustainable structure. Rigid routines don't work for ADHD brains, but chaos doesn't work either. This section shows you the middle path. Imagine checking micro routines and full routines. Why rigid schedules fail and what works instead. The under schedule principle, how to plan less to achieve more. Body doubling strategies, virtual and self-directed accountability methods. The sensory setup checklist, batching for ADHD, how to group tasks without getting overwhelmed. In part 5, the recovery protocol, because you will fall off track. And that's not failure, it's just part of having ADHD. This section will teach you the reset day framework, which is how to restart without shame after falling off track. The bare minimum list, what to do when you literally can't do anything. Momentum recovery technique, how to rebuild productivity after a crash. The compassion practice, how to talk to yourself like you talk to a friend. These strategies didn't cure my ADHD. Nothing will. ADHD is neurological, no mindset problem, but they gave me tools to work with my brain instead of against it. I still struggle. I always will. This is a lifelong condition, not something I overcame with the right mindset. But I don't struggle with the same way I used to. I have these systems now. I have language for what's happening when I freeze. I have protocols when avoidance builds up. I have compassion for myself when I fall off track. And most importantly, I have strategies that actually work for my ADHD brain. Not strategies borrowed from people whose brain work completely differently. But here's the thing, even with all of these strategies, there are specific ADHD struggles that deserve their own deep dive. That's why when you get the Executive Function Survival Guide today, you also get 7 different bonuses, 100% free. Each one is 5 to 10 pages and laser focused on one painful micro problem. From the bonuses, you'll get the email paralysis protocol, how to respond to emails when you've been avoiding them for weeks, the free template system for late replies, how to clear those 100 plus emails in one sitting, the appointment booking cheat sheet. You'll stop putting off medical, dental, and therapy appointments because making the calls feels impossible. The Doom Pile Destruction Guide, how to tackle laundry mountains, dish disasters, and clutter chaos without overwhelm. The Time Blindness Survival Kit, how to stop losing hours to just one more video and actually show up on time. The Friendship Recovery Template, what to say when you've accidentally ghosted people you care about. The RSDE First Aid Kit, how to handle criticism and fear of disappointing others. The Medication Optimization, how to maximize your ADHD meds and create systems for when they wear off. All of these are included free when you get the guide today. Now I want to be completely transparent with you about why these guides exist. After years of building these systems for myself, I realized other people need this too. No motivational speeches about trying harder, no productivity hacks that makes you feel worse when it doesn't work, no vague advice about just starting, actual practical brain-based strategies for the specific problems ADHD creates. That's what this guide is. I need to be clear about what I'm about to show you. I need to be clear about what I am and what I'm not. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a doctor, I'm not claiming to have all of the answers. I'm an engineer with ADHD who spent over a decade researching why I couldn't do simple tasks for myself, testing what actually worked, and refining strategies that align with how ADHD brains function. This guide is the result of over a decade of personal research and lived experience. Hundreds of hours studying ADHD neuroscience, executive function research, and shame psychology. Years of trial and error testing strategies on myself. Deep understanding of what it actually feels like to live with severe task initiation problems. I wrote this guide for the person I was 10 years ago, drowning in shame, exhausted from trying, convinced something was fundamentally wrong with me. If that's you right now, you're in the right place. Let's walk through everything you're getting today. Here's what you'll get. You'll get the complete executive function survival guide, more than 200 pages, 5 comprehensive modules, lifetime access and updates, and 7 bonus micro problem solver guides, email paralysis protocol, appointment booking cheat sheet, Doom Pile Destruction Guide, Time Blindness Survival Kit, Friendship Recovery Template, RSD First Aid Kit, and Medication Optimization Companion. All of this package will be roughly $200. Now you might be wondering, right now, how much is this going to cost? When you compare the price of what this system delivers with the cost of ADHD coaches, 100, 300 per hour, this will seem like a total bargain. Think about it. How much would it be worth to you if you'd finally stop procrastinating and get things done consistently? If you could finally break out of this constant cycle of feeling behind and overwhelmed due to executive dysfunction, if you could go to sleep each night knowing there isn't anything left to do, if you could finally enjoy some free time, guilt-free, because you got all the tasks done on time and you know you're making progress in life. If you would have asked me years ago, you couldn't have put a price tag on this. My main goal with the Executive Function Survival Guide is to help as many adults with ADHD as possible break free from task paralysis. Therefore, it needs to be accessible for as many people as possible, regardless of their financial situation. This means you don't need to invest thousands of dollars to get access. I'm offering you direct access to the Executive Function Survival Guide and all of the bonuses with only $57. That's it, $57. That's less than 2 therapy sessions, and it might save you from needing a dozen more. And to prove to you that this works, I'm going to make it guaranteed no-brainer for you. I'm adding 100% no question asked money back guaranteed. This means you don't have to make any decision right now. Just say maybe. Get the guide, read it, try the strategies, experience for yourself how task initiation becomes easier, how the shame avoidance cycle starts to break, how you can consistently get things done without procrastinating and without having to rely purely on willpower or discipline. Then you can decide if it was worth it. If you don't get results, I can't feel good about keeping your money. If it doesn't work for you or just don't like it for any reason, which I highly doubt, you can always just reach out and you'll get 100% refund, no questions asked. Go ahead, click the link in the description of this video and get the Executive Function Survival Guide, 100% risk-free right now. Now maybe you're thinking, I've tried everything, this probably won't work for me either. I get it, I've been there. You've tried productivity apps, time blocking, habit trackers, accountability partners, morning routines, and they all worked for a week. Here's why this is different. Those systems weren't designed for neurotypical brains. They assumed you could just start and stay consistent. The Executive Function Survival Guide is built on ADHD neuroscience. It doesn't rely on willpower or discipline. It works with your dopamine deficient brain, not against it. I can't afford another productivity program, fair concern, but ask yourself, how much has ADHD paralysis already cost you? Late fees because you couldn't pay any of your bills on time. Lost opportunities because you didn't reply fast enough. Emergency takeout because you couldn't start cooking. Therapy sessions spent talking about why you can't just do things. This guide cost you $57, less than 2 of those therapy sessions. And the strategies inside could save you from needing dozens more. I would just figure it out myself. You absolutely could. But how long will that take? I spent years researching ADHD neuroscience, testing different strategies, failing, adjusting, testing that again. You could spend the next 6 months trial and erroring your way through. Or you could have the proven system in your hands in 5 minutes. Your choice. So to summarize, you're going to get the complete Executive Function Survival Guide, 200 pages plus, all 5 core modules with proven ADHD specific strategies, 7 bonus micro problem solver guides, instant digital access, lifetime updates, and any improvements I make, you get them for free. 30-day money back guarantee. The value is over $200. Your price today, only $57. Right now you have a choice to make between 2 different options with 2 largely different outcomes. Option 1. You keep doing what you're doing at the moment. You stay stuck in this vicious cycle of procrastination, inconsistency, executive paralysis, feeling behind. Or you continue to spin your wheels without progressing on anything that's truly important to you. Most likely you'll still be in the same exact place a year or 2 years ago down the line. Option 2. You go ahead and get the Executive Function Survival Guide right now. You see how you finally understand why you struggle with your task initiation. You learn the exact strategies that help you start without relying on willpower. You break free from the paralysis that's been holding you back. You make consistent progress on tasks that once seemed impossible, all while being set free from that huge pile of undone tasks that's been creeping in the back of your head at almost every minute of the day. I know this is a significant promise, but after building and refining these systems over a year, I can confidently say it. I encourage you to get the Executive Function Survival Guide today by clicking the link in the video description and trying it out for yourself. Remember, you don't have anything to lose, as we have 100% 30-day, no question asked, money back guaranteed. If you don't like it, you will get 100% of your money back, no questions asked. So if you get the Executive Function Survival Guide, what will happen next? You'll get instant access to the complete guides and the bonuses. You will download everything to your device, so you will own that forever. You will start reading 10 pages tonight. Try one technique tomorrow. Finally, you start breaking free from task paralysis. This is digital delivery. You'll have access in less than 2 minutes. Stop fighting your ADHD brain, start working with it. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you and you are ready to finally break free from task paralysis, the Executive Function Survival Guide is there for you.